Okay. I want to start today with a sentence that, honestly, it kind of made me angry when I first read it.
Yeah.
It's from this document that's been around forever, the MIT Guide to Lockpicking. And chapter 1, it just opens with this incredibly bold, almost arrogant claim.
Let me guess.
It says, "The big secret of lockpicking is that it's easy."
It's a bit insulting, isn't it? I mean, you spend 10 minutes jiggling your key in the rain, feeling like an idiot, and these guys are just like, oh, it's actually trivial.
Exactly. It feels completely backwards. I think of locks as these, impenetrable little fortresses of security.
Right.
But this guide argues that the moment you understand how a lock is built, the magic just disappears. It stops being a security device, and it starts being a puzzle.
A puzzle that's based on physics,
Mm-hmm.
and specifically on mechanical failure. That is really the core of what we're unpacking today.
Right.
We aren't just talking about how to pick a lock, though we will get there. We are talking about the reality of security. We're looking at the trade of locksmithing, the Zen philosophy you need to master it, and the surprisingly emotional side of this whole industry.
And before we get too deep into that theory of mechanical failure, we should probably address the reality of, well, human failure.
Forgetting your keys.
Forgetting your keys. Because when that happens, you don't need a physics lesson. You need help.
Right. Theory is great when you're comfortable inside. It's pretty useless when you're locked outside looking in.
Which is why, for this deep dive, we're partnering with Point Locksmith. For our listeners in Los Angeles especially, home security starts at the door, and sometimes that door just fights back.
It really does.
West Point isn't just some guy with a truck. They're the go-to for residential services in LA.
And honestly, security is so personal. You don't want a random stranger messing with your front door.
Yeah.
You want someone with a real track record.
Which is why West Point Locksmith has those 5-star reviews. They are fast, professional, and available 24/7. So if you are right now staring through your window at your keys on the coffee table, just write this down: 310 295 4040.
It's definitely good to have that number before the panic really sets in.
Oh, absolutely. That's 310 295 4040. So let's get into the sources. We have a whole stack here: training manuals, police guides, industry reports. But the thing that caught me off guard wasn't the technical stuff.
It was the people.
It was the people. We have this source: 10 locksmith origin stories.
This is a fascinating read.
Yeah, I assumed most locksmiths just, I don't know, grew up in it, like it was a family trade. But that's not really the case, is it?
Not at all. The biggest takeaway for me was that locksmithing seems to attract people who are looking for a very specific kind of redemption.
Redemption. Wow, that's a heavy word for fixing deadbolts.
It is, but look at the story of Philip. He was an exterminator for years. He
Yeah.
spent his entire career, killing things.
Right.
He said, and I'm quoting here, "My days of terminating were over." He was just sick of the destruction. He wanted to build something, to secure things, not destroy them.
That is surprisingly profound. He went from the Terminator to the Protector.
Exactly. And you see that pattern again and again. There was the facility manager who kept trying to fix locks in his building, kept messing them up and feeling stupid.
Oh, I can relate to that.
And that frustration drove him to learn the trade just to prove he could. It's about mastery. It's about taking a chaotic situation, a broken lock, a lost key, and just restoring order.
There was also that story about the baseball player. He blows out his knee, his career's over, dreams crushed,
Yeah.
and he ends up in the family locksmith business, not because it was his passion, but just because he needed a direction.
And he stayed. That's the key part. A lot of people seem to fall into this trade, but they stay because of what they call the godsend factor.
The godsend factor. What's that?
It's a term that came up in the interviews. Think about the last time you were locked out. You feel vulnerable. Maybe it's 2 a.m. Maybe you're in a bad neighborhood. You just feel stupid and scared.
Mm.
When that locksmith pulls up, they aren't just a technician. To the customer, in that moment, they are a savior.
I see what you mean. It's emotional labor, not just mechanical labor. You're managing people when they're at their absolute worst.
Precisely.
Yeah.
You're restoring their sense of safety. And that is a powerful drug for the person doing the job.
Okay, so we have the motivation. Now I want to understand the how, because I still don't buy the MIT Guide's claim that this is easy. I've tried to jiggle a lock open with a paperclip, don't ask why,
We've all been there.
and nothing happened at all.
Well, see, scrubbing with a paperclip is sort of the Hail Mary approach.
Yeah.
To understand why it's supposed to be easy, you have to get the flatland model.
Okay, break that down for me.
Stop thinking of a lock as a complex 3D machine. In the MIT Guide, they strip it down to 2 dimensions: It's just two flat plates of metal sliding over each other. And the only thing stopping them from sliding and letting the lock turn are these tiny vertical pins that are cutting through both plates.
Right, I can visualize that. Two plates pinned together.
To open the lock, you have to lift those pins up until the tiny gap in the middle of each pin lines up perfectly with the gap between the plates. That's called the shear line.
Okay, but here's my problem. There are 5 or 6 pins in there. I only have one pick. How am I supposed to lift 5 pins at the exact same time? Gravity's just going to pull them back down, right?
That is the million-dollar question. And the answer is the binding defect. This is the secret sauce.
The binding defect.
Yes. In a perfect theoretical world, the holes for those pins would be drilled in a perfectly straight line. But we don't live in a perfect world. We live in a world of manufacturing tolerance.
You mean sloppiness?
Sloppiness, basically, yes.
Okay.
The holes aren't perfectly straight. They're microscopic amounts off. Maybe the first hole is a nanometer to the left. The second is a nanometer to the right.
Okay, so what does that do?
So imagine you were trying to walk 5 dogs through a single narrow doorway all at once.
I love this image. Keep going.
You're pulling on the leashes. That's you turning the lock with your tension wrench. In a perfect world, all 5 dogs hit the door frame at the exact same instant. But because of that sloppiness in the drilling, that never happens.
Oh.
One dog is always going to hit the door frame first.
The binding dog.
Exactly. That one pin is taking all the pressure. The other 4 are still loose. They aren't stuck yet. So you don't have to lift 5 pins at once. You just have to find the one dog that's stuck.
So you just hunt for the stiff one?
You find the stiff pin, you lift it, and you hear a little click. It sets on the ledge. The lock turns a tiny fraction of a degree.
Yeah.
And now
the second dog hits the door frame.
Bingo. Now a different pin is binding. You find that one, set it, move to the next. You're solving the puzzle one piece at a time. You aren't fighting the whole lock. You are exploiting the fact that the lock was made imperfectly.
That actually makes sense, but the guide gets a little metaphysical about how you actually find that binding pin. It talks about Zen and the art of lockpicking.
It does, and it's not just trying to be poetic. It's practical. You can't see inside the keyhole. You're completely blind.
So how do you know what's happening?
You have to project your senses into the very tip of the pick. The guide calls it a visually reconstructive imagination.
Wow.
You have to feel a vibration in your fingertip that is maybe a fraction of a millimeter, and your brain has to instantly translate that into a 3D image of what the pin is doing inside the lock.
That sounds incredibly difficult, like Jedi-level stuff.
It's a form of meditation. When you're really picking a tough lock, the rest of the world just disappears. It's just you, the tension, and the feedback from the metal.
Which sounds lovely if you're doing it for a hobby, but if I'm standing outside my house at midnight in the rain with groceries melting in the trunk,
Yeah.
I don't think I have a lot of Zen available.
Yeah. Panic destroys the Zen. Your hands shake.
Yeah.
You use way too much tension. You end up breaking the pick.
And that is exactly where the theory falls apart for the average person. We aren't Jedi, we are just tired people who want to go to bed.
And that is why the treat exists.
Right. And that brings us back to our partner, Point Locksmith. Because sometimes you don't need a visually reconstructive imagination. You need a guy named Dave with a van full of tools.
And Point Locksmith gets that.
Yeah.
They specialize in that panic moment, whether it's an emergency lockout or maybe your key broke off in the lock, which happens way more than people think.
Oh, I've done that. It's a sinking feeling.
It's the worst. West Point handles all of it.
Right.
Residential, commercial, even automotive.
Yeah.
And we mentioned they serve all of Los Angeles. They are 5-star rated because they treat your emergency like an actual emergency.
So again, if you are in LA, save yourself the stress. Call 310-295-4040. That's 310-295-4041. Because even if you know the theory of the binding defect, it's a lot nicer to watch someone else do the work.
Amen to that.
But let's say you do call a locksmith. We need to talk about the business side of this. We found some data from this old house and other sources about costs, and I think there is a lot of confusion here.
Oh, yeah. People get sticker shock.
They do. The average cost is around $150, but can range from like $50 to $400.
And the thing people forget is the trip fee.
That's just the fee for showing up, right?
Yes. You have to remember, a locksmith is a mobile workshop. You aren't just paying for the 5 minutes it takes to pop the lock. You're paying for the gas, the insurance, the travel time, and the expertise to do it without destroying your door.
But we did find a massive money-saving tip in the sources: rekeying versus replacing. I honestly thought these were the same thing until I read this.
This is the biggest scam people pull on themselves. Let's say you buy a new house. You want new keys because you don't know who the previous owner gave copies to.
Right. So I go to the hardware store, I buy 4 new handle sets, 4 new deadbolts. It cost me hundreds of dollars.
And you didn't need to do any of that. The metal hardware on the door, the handle, the bolt, that's all fine. Rekeying is where the locksmith just takes the cylinder out, dumps out those little pins we talked about, and puts in new pins that match a different key.
So the hardware stays, but the old key just stops working.
Exactly. It costs maybe $30 to $50 per lock instead of buying all new hardware. It is significantly cheaper and much, much less wasteful.
That is a huge tip. If you move, ask for a rekey, not a replacement. Now, on the flip side, there is one scenario where you really can't save money, the AKL.
The all keys lost scenario.
Yeah.
This is the holy grail for locksmith revenue and the absolute nightmare for a car owner.
This is where you lose every single key to your car.
If you have one key, cloning it is cheap. If you have 0 keys, you are in big trouble. You can't just cut a piece of metal anymore. Modern cars have transponder chips. The car's computer actually talks to the key.
So what does the locksmith have to do?
It's a process called PPC. Pick, program, and cut. First, they have to pick the door lock just to figure out the physical shape of the key blade.
Okay.
Then they cut a new key. But the car still won't start.
Because of the computer chip.
Right. Now they have to plug a laptop into your car's OBD port, hack into the car's security system, and force it to introduce itself to this brand new key. It's basically IT work.
And that's why the dealership charges an arm and a leg for this.
The dealership will charge you a fortune and make you tow the car to them. A good automotive locksmith comes to you and does it on the spot. It's expensive, but usually cheaper than the dealer.
That's wild how much tech is hidden in a simple key. But speaking of hidden things, I want to talk about the technical trivia section we dug up. Because there were some things in here that genuinely freaked me out.
The police guide to lockpicking.
Yes. Specifically, the section on bypassing. We aren't talking about elegant picking here. We're talking about, dirty tricks. The handcuff thing.
Yeah, that's a bit of a reality check.
I always assumed handcuffs were these super high security devices. But the guide says you can open them with a ballpoint pen. Please tell me that's an exaggeration.
It's not.
Hmm?
Handcuffs just a simple ratchet and a latch. They have to be simple so they don't jam in the field.
Okay.
But that simplicity means if you have a shim, like a piece of plastic from a pen cartridge, or even a bobby pin, you can slide it in, disengage the ratchet, and they just pop open.
That is terrifying.
Well, that's why police are trained to cuff you with your hands behind your back and your palms out. It makes it mechanically very difficult to actually reach the keyhole with a shim. But yeah, the lock itself is not high security.
And then there was the airbag trick for cars.
Oh yeah, this is standard roadside assistance now. If you lock your keys in the car, they don't even try to pick the lock.
What do? They
take a little inflatable bag, shove it in the door jamb, and just pump it up.
It bends the door open.
Just enough to create a small gap. Then they stick a long metal rod in and hit the unlock button on the door panel. It's crude, but it works.
It's both reassuring and disturbing at the same time. But my favorite piece of trivia was the secret language of locks, the drill points.
Ah, the mortise locks. This is cool.
This felt like secret agent stuff. The training course mentioned that if a locksmith has to drill a lock, which is always a last resort, they need to know exactly where to drill. And they can tell just by the color of the lock case.
It's like an X-ray. If you see a mortise lock with a red case, you know the internal bolt is at a specific height. So you drill, say, 16 millimeters up.
But if it's a different color?
If the case is blue, the whole mechanism is different. So you have to drill 20 millimeters up. It's anatomy. If you drill on the wrong spot, you ruin the lock and you still haven't opened the door.
So now you just have a messy hole and a very angry customer.
Exactly. Knowing that red means 16 millimeter is the difference between a pro and an amateur.
And speaking of things you shouldn't touch, we have to warn people about the USPS lock.
Oh, absolutely. Part number C91100.
If you see this lock, just back away slowly.
Yeah, if you see that lock, it's a federal property. It's on mailboxes. It is not a normal lock. If you try to pick it or drill it or even mess with it, you are committing a federal crime.
So practice your Zen visualization on your own deadbolt, not the mailbox.
Please, yes.
So we've covered the past. The exterminators turned locksmiths. We've covered the present, the binding defect, the trip fees. But the 2025 Trends Report shows a very different future.
The trade is shifting under our feet. We're moving from mechanical to digital.
Smart locks.
Smart locks are just exploding. Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, biometrics, and this completely changes the definition of what a locksmith is.
How so?
Well, if your front door lock is connected to your Wi-Fi, it's not just a mechanical device anymore, it's a computer. It has firmware, it has security vulnerabilities that have nothing to do with physics and everything to do with code.
So a locksmith in 2025 needs to know about cybersecurity.
They have to. They are becoming IT support for your house. If your smart lock gets hacked, or if the battery dies and the digital keypad fails, you need someone who understands the electronics, not just the springs and pins.
That is a huge shift. We're going from feeling the pin click to updating the firmware.
And we're seeing a push for sustainability, too, which I did not expect.
Yeah, the report mentioned EV fleets.
It makes sense. A locksmith's biggest expense is fuel. They drive all day long. Switching to electric vans isn't just greenwashing, it's economic survival. And using locks made from recycled materials is becoming a real selling point.
It's fascinating. The tools change, from picks to laptops, but the core job is still the same. Keeping the bad guys out and letting the good guys in.
That's the mission.
And it brings us back to that idea of trust. Whether you have a vintage lock that needs a delicate touch or a high-tech smart lock that's just acting up, you need a partner you can really trust.
Which brings us back one last time to Point Locksmith.
Exactly. Residential security is their specialty. They've seen it all, from the broken keys to the smart lock installs. So if you're in Los Angeles, keep this number handy. 310-295-4040.
Fast, reliable, 5-star reviews. That's 310-295-4040.
As we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with a final thought. We spent a lot of time talking about how easy picking is or how smart locks are, but the police guide had this really sobering reminder about what a lock actually is.
It's a reality check. The guide notes that a lock only buys you 2 things: time and noise.
Time and noise, that's it.
That's it. There is no such thing as perfect security. A pin tumbler lock relies on manufacturing sloppiness to be pickable. An electronic lock can be hacked, a window can be broken.
So the lock is just there to make it annoying enough that the thief moves on to an easier target.
Exactly. So that leaves the question, does perfect security actually exist? Or is it all just an illusion of delay?
That's the question, something to think about as you lock up tonight. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Stay safe.